I'm Ross Gallabrese, executive editor of the Herald-Star and the Weirton Daily Times, and I'm joined today by, as always, by Paul Giannamore.
Good afternoon, good morning, whatever we work this out to.
And a very special guest, Judge John Mascio, who has been working very diligently for about the past year or so on revisions to the Steubenville City Charter. Now, this is the first of a series of 4 special presentations of Ohio Valley this week, in which we're going to look at and break down all of the proposed amendments to the charter, and each of these amendments will appear on the November ballot. First off, John, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for asking me.
Well, but tell us just a little bit, if you can try to compress exactly what the goal of the Charter Commission review was.
The goal was to review the entire charter and to decide what, if any, changes needed to be recommended to be put on the ballot for voter approval or disapproval in the November general election. So we started basically on page 1 and went through each article of the charter. Most of it we left alone, but there were some areas that we felt some changes needed to be made. Some were the panel's idea, some were ideas that were presented to different members of the panel that we discussed. Some we adopted, some we did not adopt.
Okay.
Judge, the reason we're here today, too, is because this is quite a lengthy list of issues for voters to face coming up in November.
Well, one thing that we are permitted to do by statute is to condense the issues. Instead of putting on the ballot what the current charter reads and then say is recommended that it be amended to read as follows and put in the amendment, we're allowed to do a condensing of that. And if the condensed version accurately reflects what the change is, that's what gets put on the ballot, so that it shortens the ballot considerably. The local board of elections has the ability to and the authority to review and make this determination, but I understand that their practice is to send it to the office of the Secretary of State and get input from Columbus. That way there's no problem down the road.
And it's a mix or match on these 13 issues we're going to begin discussing. We could have a charter that the commission has intended to have 13 changes to, perhaps, but we're going to get 6 here and
or none.
7 that aren't,
or none.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Just depends.
All right. Well, let's start to break it down a little bit. Issue number 1, I think that's the one that looks at term limits for council members and the mayor, correct?
Correct. And the way it works now, there are no term limits on the council or members of council or the mayor at the present time. We had a lot of feedback from people throughout the community that they wanted to see term limits. By the same token, we've had some feedback where people don't think there should be term limits. So I don't know what the majority is. That'll be determined in November. But we decided that we would put it on the ballot. We would limit the mayor and the members of council to 2 consecutive terms of office, and these terms would not begin to count until the expiration of the present term they are serving. So you could have some actually serving however many years they've been there, plus 8 more.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And what are those term limits in the proposal?
8 years.
8 years.
And then there's a provision that at the end of the 8 years, if somebody has served 2 consecutive terms, they are not permitted to run for that position for 4 years.
Okay, so in essence, 12-year block there.
It's 8, then a 4-year break, and then you can run again. Okay. And if you go back historically, at least in my time, I think there's only one councilman who was defeated and actually, after sitting out, ran again. Most of them, after they're out, don't come back.
Right, exactly. And the way the terms are staggered, they're going to remain staggered, right?
Yes.
With half the council and then the other half and the mayor every 2 years
Right.
on.
Right.
So that we don't end up with a situation where, people will argue that you're going to lose institutional knowledge, everybody leaves all at once. That doesn't.
That's the way it used to be until the charter was adopted.
Right.
It's staggered now, and that stays the same. We didn't change that.
Okay.
Okay, great. All right, issue 2 now. That's the issue that deals with the removal of office of the mayor or council members if they would miss 4 consecutive meetings for reasons other than health. And it also covers filling vacant council seats.
Correct. There are provisions in the charter right now dealing with removing members of council or the mayor for that matter. We felt that it needed to be tightened up a little bit and made a little more clear as to how it would kick in. So we added the 4 consecutive regular meetings. And it may do away with the provision now where they'll make a motion to excuse a member of council regardless of what the reason is. Thinking of the committee was that everybody, if you're elected to council, you should be present at the meetings. Granted, there are emergencies that crop up, but it's unusual that you're going to have 4 in a row. And maybe they can deal with that if that happens to occur. We also put provisions in here about, and I'm not sure it needed to be in, but remember the majority of the group wanted to add it in that they could be removed for misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance in office.
Okay. How will the replacement procedure work? Because that has come up a number of times since 1984. What changes?
Council would replace the vacant seat, and it depends upon when the vacancy occurs. For example, in the last election, Bob Villamagna got elected, and then there was some discussion as to when would they fill the vacancy. We put a provision in here that if there's an election to a vacancy, if a vacancy is there and somebody gets elected, within, I think it's 5 days after certification by the Board of Elections, they're required to be put into that position as opposed to sit out and wait. If a vacancy, if somebody runs for an office, for example, well, let me back up. If somebody does not run for an office and the seat becomes vacant, the incumbent serves till December 31st. We put in a provision that at the first regular meeting in January, council fills the vacancy.
Okay.
From somebody.
And the change there is there's no more of that. There's that confusing thing where if it's a year before the end of a term, they hold an election and they do all that other, that's going away?
We did all that. We put in a provision, any vacancies in council are to be filled according to the election laws of the state of Ohio.
Okay.
Okay.
And we wanted to have some uniform method so that somebody doesn't have to look at the election laws, look at the charter, see how they compare and which one do you follow. And in my discussions with the law director and even the Board of Elections, it got to be confusing over the years.
Right.
Sure. Okay. All right, issue 3, that covers powers of council and meetings and procedures. That seems like a pretty broad topic there.
The city charter now spells out what departments there are. Things change over the years. So we worded it up, hopefully the way we intended to work, that council has the ability to create whatever departments they want. We spelled out certain departments, which are the basic departments. Plus, they can create however many others that they deem necessary, or they can merge departments, or they can do away with departments. And once they go ahead and it kind of gives them broader powers to adapt to the needs of the city as the years go on.
Okay. What are the basic departments they'll be required to keep? Water,
Sewer, sanitation, maintenance and repair, police, fire.
Okay. Kind of what's
pretty much what's there now.
Right. Okay.
Okay. All right, we're going to look at one more issue on this first segment, and that's issue 4, which proposes new salaries for the mayor and council members beginning when their new terms start. And it also eliminates health care benefits.
It eliminates all compensation of any kind other than the salary.
Okay, so it's not just health care. It's
no
this
health
gets
care,
into cell phones,
no
the
cell
car
phones,
allowances,
no
whatever else
computers.
might have occurred over the years. Okay.
Everything else has gone by the wayside.
Okay.
Now, this actually doesn't take effect until the beginning of a new term if these people run and get reelected, because there's a statute in Ohio that says that you're not permitted to raise or lower compensation of any elected official during term, and compensation has been defined and interpreted as being any kind of remuneration that they may receive. So healthcare is included in that as well as anything else. So they'll keep whatever they have until the end of this present term.
What is the, okay, they're losing all the benefits. What is the dollar per meeting, or however you guys factored it, that it would go up?
We just figured they meet every week, and that includes the sunshine meetings, so $100 per meeting and $120 for the mayor.
Okay.
All right, very good. Well, there are 13 issues, 13 proposed changes to the charter of the city of Steubenville that voters are going to have the opportunity to vote on in the November 4th election. This is our first in what we have planned for four special editions of Ohio Valley this week to look at the proposed changes. Next time we're going to look at issues 5 through 8. And then we'll look at issues 9 and 10, and then 11, 12, and 13 in the coming segments.
Sounds good. I hope it sounds good to the judge. Thank you for being our guest and explaining this. And as always, your knowledge about the way the city has worked goes back decades.
I don't think you needed to say that.
All right, remember, you can follow us at heraldstaronline.com. You can follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. That's the right term for that, isn't it?
Yes, like.
Like us on Facebook. Until next time, Ross Gallabrese,
Paul Giannamore,
and our guest John Mascio for Ohio Valley this week.